So today is Tuesday, March 26, 2024, and I'm sure you guys are well aware of what happened this morning, or late last night or early this morning, one or the other. And I got these two screenshots here that I pulled from Sassy Liberty. The first one here looks like it's from somebody named Matt Wallace, maybe. And it says that in 2023, the Obamas produced a movie called Leave the World Behind, where a cyber attack causes a massive container ship to lose power and crash. Months later, a massive container ship loses power and crashes into Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, causing a deadly collapse. Additionally, all ship traffic at the port, the second largest seaport in the Mid-Atlantic region, has been halted. According to the Census Bureau, or census data, the Port of Baltimore handled more than $80 billion in imports and exports in 2023, marking a 20-year record. So guys, what do you think? What do you think about what's going on? What do you think about what's happening? I think the crazy part about it is, and this is just my opinion, so it is what it is, but I think the crazy part about it is this is only the beginning, and we'll continue to hear more about this and upcoming events. There's always something happening. There's always going to be something breaking, something new. And I think that unfortunately, no matter what, we'll never know the truth. You'll never know. Unless you, perhaps, maybe, were the captain of this ship. Maybe only you knew, but even then, maybe you didn't. Maybe you weren't in on the plan and the power was cut to the ship by somebody else. And, you know, it's almost like an eagle eye type scenario, type situation, where everybody has their own job and their own task and their own mission to execute that will inevitably initiate and trigger this domino effect that will ultimately produce the final outcome that, if we're going to reference the movie Eagle Eye, that AI wanted to happen. Now granted, AI isn't AI. AI is code. AI is created by human beings. AI in itself is taught and trained, much like our school system, what to think, not necessarily how to think, and then continues to think of new and exciting ways that it can spice up our lives, our day-to-day lives, and introduce new catastrophes and crisis scenarios and chaos, and continuously keep us on the brink, the cusp of ultimate collapse, fear, worry, stress, anxiety. For what reason? For what reason? That's probably the question that we should really be trying to answer is why? Why is this happening? And what is the ultimate end game goal? Now, as I say this, I realize that a lot of you are probably going to drop in the comments your thoughts and opinions on this end game goal. And I think it's far worse than the Thanos snap, because they would prefer to have more than 50% of the population wiped out. Just saying. But be that as it may, this is the beginning, or it's the end. I'm not really sure, but I think this is the beginning of the new end, as this is going to be one of those topics that we hear about for the next week or so. And odds are, more than likely, there'll be new developments, but they'll probably fizzle out way before April 8th. And to my point, let me just ask you guys a question. What have you heard since of the exploding car at the U.S.-Canada border that we heard about months ago? It's okay, I'll wait. Yeah. Where did it go? What happened? What was the resolution? What was the final outcome? What was the reasoning for it? And what is the solution moving forward? There isn't one. There isn't one. All we get in exchange are more distractions. More distractions. Let me share this distraction with you guys. You may or may not have seen it, but this one's actually pretty mind-blowing, really. And I need to do the math, because if my numbers are correct, we're looking at we're looking at $350. I don't know, it says it'll last 6 weeks, but we're looking at $350 multiplied by 180,000 migrants having entered New York over the last 2 years. And so $350 times 180,000 is $63 billion. $63 billion, okay? Now, this is the latest in response to New York starts distributing debit cards to migrants despite an uproar. New York City officials on Monday began handing out debit cards to migrant families to pay for food and baby supplies at grocery stores. New York City officials are moving ahead with a contentious plan to give migrant families debit cards for food and baby supplies, with the first cards being distributed on Monday to a small handful of new arrivals. Hey guys, we've been here for a little while. A lot of you guys have been here with me since the beginning, since before the channel was even called Kevin, since the video that I created where I said maybe I should change my channel name, and you guys provided so many different options of Squirrel Tribe's husband or variations of Squirrel Tribe. But do you recall early videos when we first befriended each other and we were introduced, and baby formula was on national back order? There was a nationwide shortage of baby formula. Joe Biden himself was supposed to be flying in this non-FDA approved baby formula from Europe. I think maybe possibly in exchange for all the gasoline and diesel that we were giving Europe, but I digress. Now, all of a sudden, we're giving migrants $350 a week to procure said baby formula, baby food, baby supplies. New York City officials are moving ahead with a contentious plan to give migrant families debit cards for food and baby supplies, with the first cards being distributed on Monday. The program has faced a backlash over concerns about potential fraud or abuse, and about whether migrants were being given preferential treatment over other people in need. Look, I don't know how the system works exactly. I've never been involved in the system to that degree, but I do feel like migrants are definitely getting a greater boost. They're getting more support and help, and their lifestyle is being supplemented more so than actual U.S. citizens, okay? And some of these folks are here technically illegally without actually following through the proper legal channels to enter into this country and work towards naturalization and citizenship. The program has faced a backlash, but with 180,000 migrants having entered New York over the past 2 years and 65,000 still in shelters, the city is struggling with mounting housing and food costs, and the administration of Mayor Eric Adams is eager to try a new approach. It's funny that they say that, because I think it was Russia, and they had an experience with some less than desirable migrants, and they immediately deported them, like, you know, no questions asked. Meanwhile, here, we take a much softer approach, a lighter approach. A family of 4 is expected to receive up to $350 per week under the program, which will last 6 weeks. City officials said the program will begin with 10 families on Monday, expanding to about 115 families, or roughly 450 people, over the next week. Mayor Adams, a Democrat, has repeatedly defended the program, arguing that it will bring down the cost of feeding migrants, put money back into local businesses, and help the city avoid wasting uneaten meals. The city's deputy mayor for Health and Human Services, Ann Williams Issam, said in an interview on Monday that she did not understand the outcry over allowing a group of vulnerable people to buy their own food, noting that other programs like cash assistance and food stamps are available to New Yorkers who are not migrants. Now, let me ask you guys, perhaps maybe some of you watching are on food stamps or possibly were on food stamps at some point in time or are applying for food stamps or EBT. How difficult is that program to qualify and receive your benefits in comparison to these migrants who are just going to be handed $350 a week for what? Attesting that they crossed the border illegally? They were sent to New York City on a bus from Texas? Come on, guys. Quote, I do struggle with why people are being so negative when it comes to providing something so basic for families with children, she added. And it's not putting groups against each other. But it is. I mean, you're providing and giving to those with preferential treatment opposed to others who really do need it, who are in need and have attempted to navigate the complex and complicated legal channels to receive and qualify for these benefits, and instead you turn your back on them, you close shelters, and instead you give migrants literally anything and everything that they could possibly want while offering them near diplomatic immunity to commit crimes and get away with it. It says that the cards will be distributed at the city's arrival center, the Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan, to migrant families who are staying at hotels that are being used as emergency shelters under a 28-day voucher program. And city officials said the cards would be loaded with 1 week of funds at a time and that their use would be monitored before the program was expanded to more families. Joseph Borelli, the city council's Republican minority leader, acknowledged that offering debit cards might be cheaper than providing boxed meals, but he said the city was still spending too much money on migrant services. Funny that it comes from the Republican leader. Quote, a lot of New Yorkers are going to take this as something that's fundamentally unfair, he said, and there are plenty of New Yorkers struggling to pay their bills, as I just discussed, and I'm sure you can attest to. The most vehement criticism of the program has come from conservative leaders and commentators, including on Fox News, where Governor Greg Abbott of Texas said the idea was insanity at a time when migrants were being accused of committing crimes. Questions have also been raised about the contract to provide the cards, which was awarded on an emergency basis to Mobility Capital Finance without competitive bids from other companies. The Adams administration has been faulted for entering into a no bid $432 million contract with DocGo, a medical services company whose work on the migrant crisis has been marred by scandal. Look, guys, I have even myself been an 8A government contractor on a federal level, and still getting an 8A set-aside contract was still rather difficult. Meanwhile, the mayor of New York City allows for the procurement of a $400+ million contract without a bid. Can you say corruption? Can you say lack of better judgment? Can you say embezzlement? Can you say money laundering? Can you, I don't know how many different terms and phrases I can use here, but I'd be willing to bet that Eric Adams is about to get broke off big time. So it says that the cost of the contract with Mobility Capital Finance, a company known as MoCaFi, that focuses on providing financial services to low-income communities, could rise to as much as $53 million, with the $2 million possibly going to MoCaFi and the rest being distributed to families. The city has spent about $570,000 on the contract so far, including a $125,000 starting fee for the company, advance funds to be placed on cards, and $3 per card to create them. The company's chief executive, Wole Coxum said that Mokafai had worked on universal basic income cards in other cities, including Los Angeles, Newark, New Jersey, and they were not abused. Well, I mean, obviously, that's what I would say, right? What we found, and I quote, what we found in each of these instances is that people spend the money on the intended purposes. So what you're saying is that you found that they spend the money on intended purposes, or at least that's what you're saying. But what you're also saying, without saying it, is that the money could be spent on non-intended purposes, because there's no checks and balances. There's no oversight. This is literally printing taxpayer dollars off into a way to funnel it back into the hands of those who are the most corrupt. Wasn't it Eric Adams, someone in Eric Adams' office the other day that had their home raided by the feds? A home that I can't mathematically and physically fathom how they could possibly afford on the salary that they earned by working for Mayor Eric Adams' office. Look, guys, if you really want to know how to make money, if you really want to know how to make more money, then yeah, you need to work for the government. And you need to get in good with whoever is in procurement and find a way to work your way into these contract deals and get you something on the side. Ask Letitia, ask Ingeron, ask Fannie Willis, ask them all, folks. Just saying, I've been down that road before. Mr. Coxum said the digital coding in the cards ensures that they will work only at supermarkets and bodegas. Participants must also sign an affidavit saying they will use them only for food and baby supplies or risk removal from the program, and the families are being asked to save their receipts. This has got to be the most lax system that I've ever seen or heard of, and this is a recipe for disaster, folks. The city has the ability to remove money from the cards or to permanently turn off a card. And Mr. Coxum said that the city is working with supermarkets and bodegas to make the rules clear. The city intends to collect feedback before expanding the program. Ms. Williams-Isom said officials would examine whether the program is meeting its goals, which odds are, I'm not going to say. Quote, we'll be looking at where they're actually being used, what the card is being used for, and feedback from migrants themselves to see whether this is something that is worthwhile, she said. I can pretty much guarantee you I know what the feedback from the migrants will be. This is a great program, but we need more money. Meanwhile, video catches migrants. Check this out. Video catches migrants cutting the Texas border fence before National Guard troops stop illegal crossers. And you think that these folks are going to use this system in a way in which it benefits those who are paying for it? Absolutely not. Michelle said the sauce is really good. She did something to it. What'd you do to it?
So it's I threw everything away. So it's the sauce, the regular spaghetti sauce, but then I added heavy whipping cream and some Parmesan and then oregano and parsley to it.
I can't wait.
I know. I just need these noodles to boil.
I can tell you my problems, meditating my silence, but I keep pushing my pen, rotating my stylus. Brokenness feeling like sin, now no breath, low dollar. Used to be left on red, now all the girls go holler. Now all the girls go follow. All the fake friends gon' pop.